Hello and welcome to this special holiday edition of One Called Mama. I am your host, Sam, and I am so thankful that you have decided to join me and my very special guest, Sherry. Sherry is a wonderful woman. She is an entrepreneur. She is a businesswoman. She is an author. And I am very excited for her to share her wisdom, what she does, how she does it with you today, because she has some incredible things that are on her heart and I know are going to be impactful and empowering for you to hear. So, Sherry, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sam. I am so honored to be here, and I have to tell you, I have listened. If you guys have not listened to her episodes, you really need to listen. There's so many different stories. Even if you can't personally relate, they still impact you. So I was just very thrilled to be asked to be on your podcast. Thank you.
Thank you. That means so much. When you told me that you'd listened to every episode, I just kind of went, "Oh, that's so cool. That means so much to me." Before we jump into today, I would love for you to share a little bit about yourself so our listeners can get to know you.
Sure. So my name is Sherry Prather. I am a wife to Kevin. I am a mom to a grown son, Joshua. I'm a fur mama. We have a collie named Boomer. We live very remote. I love that. It wasn't in the plans for as early as it happened, but I'm so grateful. And it caused a lot of shifts in my life, business as well. And I'm thankful for that. Um, I coach women in business, small business, and entrepreneurs. I'm in the health and wellness field. That's my real passion, those two things, the coaching the women and being a health coach. Those are incredible. I was with the company for almost 7 years and they're closing their doors, and that's been a shift, but God just keeps showing up in all of these places, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful. I love to fish. I love to hunt. We're very outdoorsy. I
I
love
know
to,
that about you.
yes, yes, we're actually leaving for a trip very soon to Canada. Excited for that. Um, what else? I love to read. I love to learn. I love to share what I've learned. So I think that's a pretty broad base there.
Definitely, if you decide after today's episode, if you decide to go check Sherry out on her social media pages and all of those things, you will definitely see that she is a learner and someone who loves to share what she learned. She's always putting out really neat content that I love seeing. Um, so for this season, we are talking about holiday hangups, things that get in the way and keep us from really enjoying the holiday season and really um, keeping us from being present with our families, keeping us from seeing the real reason why we're doing what we're doing. A lot of people struggle with depression around this time and just lots of different aspects. And so, for you, I want to start off this conversation by asking, why do you think it's challenging around the holidays? Why do you think people find it so difficult?
Um, well, I think women in general want to be all things to all people.
Mhm.
And you have to be really honest with yourself about what you can do and what you can accomplish. And I have a couple of friends that are in business with me, and you know them, Belinda and Melinda. And Belinda has the saying, and she says it all the time to me, to herself, to women in our community. And I don't remember where she heard it, who said it to her that impacted her, but it impacted me. And it is be where your feet are planted. And what that means, Sam, is if you're with your kids, be present with your kids. If you're with your friends, you're out to lunch, be present with your friends. And if you're working, be present with your work. And I think when you start doing things like that and you really commit to that, it becomes rewarding and it helps you to find some balance. Now, I've got some other things to add to that. Speaking of balance, I'm a very list oriented person. I told you we're getting ready for a trip, and that means that I'm preparing myself to be in action while I'm gone. because you can't just disappear off social media. And I will share my vacation, but I have some things planned to be automated while I'm gone. That requires me pushing harder before I leave. So I have a list. If I told you how many items were on that list of things that I need to accomplish between now and when we leave, it would probably overwhelm you. But when I said be where your feet are planted, when I'm working, when I'm doing certain tasks, like for instance, when we started this podcast, I put my phone on do not disturb. So when I'm doing certain tasks, I put my phone on do not disturb and I do what I call power hours. And a power hour may be 30 minutes, it may be an hour, it may be an hour and a half or 2 hours. But whatever that is, I work hard on that task. I don't get up and do things that will distract me and get me off course. And I find that when I do that, I accomplish more. Another thing that I work with women on in my industry is calendar blocking. And when you calendar block, you're going to look at a calendar. And I actually think that you need to have from the minute you wake up till the minute you go to bed, and because you're plugging in your personal items as well, right? So you go through first and you plug in all your non-negotiables. If you are the one who takes your children to school in the morning and you get them ready, you have that on your calendar. Um, if you have church on Wednesday nights, every Wednesday night, you have that on your calendar. If, some people have standing doctor's appointments, maybe you have allergies, and every whatever day of the week you go, all of those things, you have it on the calendar. I have women tell me all the time, I don't have time to do, like, I want to do this, but I don't have time. And when we start digging into their calendar, their time, they realize that they have blocks of 2 or 3 hours of time that they can do whatever it is, whether it's business, pleasure, whatever. It really makes a difference. And I have to tell you, when I was first challenged with this years ago, I found it overwhelming. And it took me a long time to sit down and do it. So, what I advise women to do is you take one day and you do it, and then you take the next day and you do it. And typically, you can take that week and just repeat it over and over. And then what I do is, let's say that I have a calendar block of time that I'm working my business, say like from 8 to 10 in the morning, and my son needs me to help him with something. So I'm having to commute into town, and that's wiping out that block of time. I take another block of time that was for pleasure and I fill that in, because what happens is you don't do that when you have a business like I do, where you have flexibility. You end up using all your flexible time and you're not working, and at the end of the month, you have no income. And that becomes something that's heavy for yourself. And it also can get your spouse barking at you, going, hey, you've got this job that you do that's flexible, and that's great, but you're not bringing in any income. And that's not a job, that's a hobby. And so you want your spouse to support you. You want him to see that you're putting in this time, and that time is equating to income, and it all just kind of flows. So that's a brief overview of how I run things for me and how I teach women who are working with me to work their business.
Yeah. It's so practical. And I love that. I love that you said it was overwhelming at first, because I think that's key for us to remember, is that a lot of times when we compare ourselves, and we're all guilty of comparing ourselves to other people, it's just going to happen. And when we do that, we a lot of times compare ourselves from our beginning to their like 5 years of experience, and that is just so not fair to ourselves, and it's really not fair to them, because you end up putting that person on a pedestal, and that's a whole other problem. So really, it's taking small steps towards what you're doing and what you're talking about, like you said, doing it daily, or and then getting comfortable with that, and then adding something else in. And so when you're taking these baby steps, what you find is that as you take these small steps, you can look back 6 months later and see, oh, wow, I've made some serious progress. Because if you only change your direction by 1% every day, then that 1%, it adds up very quickly. Yeah.
It adds up really fast. Another analogy that I give women that I'm coaching or women that are on my team is I will ask them, how do you eat an elephant? If you walked into a room and the hostess said, hey, we all have to finish this elephant before we leave here, can you imagine how many people would gasp? I
Mhm.
mean, it would be overwhelming, but if you were like, okay, everybody just get a bite. Okay, everyone get another bite. And that's really what we're doing. We're conquering it one bite at a time. And I feel when I give women tasks like that and they have some success, they get more excited about it versus they walk in and you have all of these things that you have to do and you don't even know where to start. You give up before you ever start.
Exactly. It's so cool too because there's nothing new under the sun. This is totally biblical because God says, "Give us our daily bread." I have, all that you need for the day. Manna. I've talked about this on the show not that long ago because it's just a theme that keeps coming back, but it's so true. It's just, what do you have to do for the day? And something that God has really been teaching me is that, I have a lot on my plate and I feel the pressure of that. It is a lot sometimes. And I think, well, wow, in a month I start this and I have to get this, and this done. But in reality, what is the priority? Because if that's a month away, then what really needs to happen now?
Right.
And, you can take tiny steps to be prepared for that thing, but you really need to give more weight to the thing that is happening now. And so learning how to prioritize is also another big part of this is understanding, okay, yes, I have these 10 things. Let's just say it's 10 things. But these
Mhm.
first three are the most crucial. And I need to work through these first three. And then I can take on the next thing. And giving yourself grace as you figure that out because it is a rhythm that you have to learn and figure out as you grow in whatever you're doing.
It is. And, the difference between what you and I are doing and what Susie Q, that's what we're going to call her, Susie Q, that has a full-time job that works 8 to 5, she has a supervisor that has set up structure for her and said, this is what you're going to do between these hours, 8 to 5. And if you get your tasks done early, we'll talk about that. I may give you some more tasks, or that'll be your free time or whatever. And what people that are working at home do is mismanage their time. I was talking to a lady the other day that works alongside of me, and she said, I'm just not getting anywhere. Like I'm working all day long and I'm getting nowhere. And so I said, let's look at that. Let's look and see where you're spending your time, where you need to pull off of one task and put on to another. And really what it boiled down to is she was scrolling Facebook and she's engaging and that relationship building is part of what you're doing, but you can't do that 24 hours a day. Like you have to do other things. And so we give our team what we call income producing activities. And depending on how much income they're needing to make per week, per day, per whatever, you can kind of gauge where you need to spend some of your time. And is it different for some people than others? Absolutely. Because if you have someone who is a mega influencer on social media, some things may come easier for her just because she has a broader base. But there really is a math equation that you can use to figure these things out.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of owning that. And
Yeah.
you have to be very real with yourself. You really have to say, am I doing the things that I need to be doing during my business hours?
Yeah. It's hard. It is
It,
hard because it's a little embarrassing depending on what you kind of self-discover. You're like, oh, I'm doing this a little too much. Or, it's kind of a gut punch depending on what you find. I mean, but it's part of the process. It's
it can be. And you have to um, always try to tell my teammates lovingly that I am very right there in your face telling you. But like I said, I try to do it in a loving way, but you have to be open to that tough love. And I had people give me tough love and tell me, this is what you told me you needed and wanted, but you're not doing the steps to get there. And there's no one else you can blame. You have to take ownership for it. So, yeah.
And that again is as you, and it's not, it's not like, oh, I've made this mistake, I need to quit. Oh, I've made this mistake, how can I grow? Because
It's not
everybody's going to
always
fall into that.
right. And it's not always a mistake. Sometimes it's just modifying what you're doing. It's not that you're wrong. It's just maybe what you're doing worked 6 months ago
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. And I'm always reinventing myself. Or what do I tell my team? I'm always relaunching my business.
Mm,
Just because what I was doing 3 months ago that may have really just been helping me knock it out of the park, I've got to readjust, and that's okay.
yeah.
That's okay. So, yeah,
That's very true. As you grow and as you improve, you are always going to have to find new ways to keep growing and improving. And what worked before isn't going to necessarily work now.
right.
So, how do we? I know you have some things on your heart specifically that you want to share. So, what does this look like? I mean, look, what is the next step for the women out there listening? What direction do we go in with this?
Well, um, depending on what business you're in, I tell my people to look at how much money do you need or want to make with what you're doing.
Mhm.
Okay. Once you do that, then you can determine, is that feasible? Because I have some people who tell me I need to make $5,000 a month and they're only able to work, 2 or 3 hours a week. And that's not gonna work. So you have to be realistic. You need to partner with whoever your upline is or someone in your company that knows what is feasible, what is realistic, and then you put your game plan into place. And like I say, I love to start with calendar blocking because so many people don't realize that they have more time than they do. And sometimes you have to be real with yourself too. Like, we all have shows that we want to watch on television, right? So you have to be realistic and say, is the money a need or is it a want? Okay. If it's a need, then you may need to readjust your binge watching or whatever. The same as when I was saying that your time is flexible, right? The hours are flexible, but they're not optional.
Right.
You have to figure out how many hours it is that you're going to work it. And you just have to dig in and do those things. So I think that that's a really good place to start.
Yeah. There is a lot of self-denial. Sorry, you were going to say something else, but
Yeah.
there is a lot of self-denial when you decide that you want to take on that ministry, that business, that whatever it is. I know I have all sorts of different women. Some of them are we're stay-at-home moms, right? Just like myself, that we're looking for the next thing that we're supposed to be doing. What is God calling me to? There is
Absolutely.
a lot of denying of self. You pick up your cross and you follow me. I lately have been having this image of just putting myself at the foot of the cross, not the burdens, not the cares, not the this, that, or the other. It's just all of me
Yeah.
because I realize that that is what he's asking for, all of me. And that's what he wants. He doesn't always, and this is kind of a segue, but I feel it's important. A lot of times we'll listen to something like this and we'll think, okay, I need to do this and this and this and this. And you do have to do the activities. I don't want you to hear this wrong. The activities are required. And you will find that as you start walking this path, you will have this desire or temptation to lean more into the activities than you lean into God. And what I'm going to tell you is that you need to lean into God so that you can do the activities.
Absolutely.
Because if you don't, then you will not be able to keep going and you will find yourself exhausted and
Burnout.
then losing your focus because you forget, either you forget why you're doing it, maybe you don't understand your why enough, or you are doubting what you're doing because you're not leaning into God enough. You have to stay connected with him.
So two things just came to mind when you said that. Um, And one is um, people get into doubt. And the way you get out of doubt is to get into action. You have to be working your business to get yourself out of doubt. Because if you're not working, you're not going to have results. If you don't have results, you're going to have doubt. So it's a vicious cycle,
Yes.
right? And there was something else and it just went, shoo.
It's okay. Happens to me all the time.
I hate that when that happens though. But being real with yourself is really crucial. Something that I learned in when I was doing some self-development is oftentimes we're doing things that are not necessary to grow our business. So having someone who is successful in the business look at your daily activities is really important because if you're spending too much on time on things that are not going to grow your business, you can probably throw them out. Even if you find joy in them, even if you find comfort in them, you need to minimize that. So I'll give you an example. Um, our company just launched a plan for us to um, promote our products on TikTok. Okay. And TikTok can be really good and it can be really bad. There's a broad range of views on it. I look for the good in it. I do think that there is good in it. There's a lot of people sharing things from their ministry on it. You know, there's just really good educational things. And of course, as with anything social media related, there's bad. So I limit the amount of time that I'm on TikTok. I do need to scroll and engage some. You're wanting to engage because that helps you to grow your base. You're wanting to scroll so you can get ideas. So I limit myself and I literally set a timer and I will give myself like 15 minutes at the first part of the day and 15 minutes at the end of the day. If I didn't do that, I could sit there and just be scrolling and scrolling and look up and I go, oh my goodness, I just used 2 hours of my power hour time that I'm checking in with my customers to see how they're doing, or I'm doing just conversation to, take the person to the next step of the process. And that is so damaging. And I feel like people don't do that. Having someone else look at what you're doing with your day if you're not having success and you can't be honest with yourself is really crucial. But you do have to still be honest with that person and forthright, or they're not going to be able to help you.
Yeah, definitely. And if you don't have someone right now, all you have to do is pick up your phone and just say, okay, where are the settings? Where do I find it shows you where you're spending your time. It breaks it down and it's very easy to see, okay, this is where I have a problem. This is where I need to pull back a
Exactly.
little bit.
I don't know if you have an iPhone, but I actually get once a week, I get a report that
Mhm.
shows me how many hours I spent on my phone. And then, like you said, if you click it and then you open it, it shows you where that time is. Was it on phone calls? Was it with texting? Was it on this social media platform or that one? And it is really, really helpful
Yeah.
for you to see that. It's kind of a come to Jesus moment.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. So, how do you kind of mentioned that you automate some things, and automation is such a helpful tool. And there's like a lot of apps out there that can do that for you. You can even do it like within Facebook, you can schedule posts and things like that. So it's pretty simple. But how do you juggle your multiple streams of income? Because I know around this time you told me that around the holidays you do travel with your husband. So how do you juggle these different things? Is there more than just automation tools at play here?
And I am not, I'm going to be very forthright and tell you there are more things that I could automate. I do struggle with that. I know that some people automate even their conversations that they have with people. You know, for instance, on some of the social media platforms, when someone messages you, there can be keywords that it sends another message
Oh,
back to them. I love some of that and I hate some of it. I want to be involved in the conversation because it's a relationship. I don't want you to feel like you're talking to a robot. There are aspects that I do automate, but more than anything, it's literally schedule.
Yep.
So when I'm looking, and I'm fortunate because I do have multiple streams of income, and I didn't for years. I did not believe in multiple streams of income. And when I had a situation that pushed me into the health and wellness industry, and I still had this other company going over here, and I had lots and lots of customers. I had a huge customer base. I couldn't just drop that, so that's when it started. And then I just had some other opportunities. I was in um a coaching group, and they talked to us about people approaching you for their businesses. And I have it on the daily or weekly. Like, you would probably be amazed at how many people approach me. And some of them, it's just it's not done very well. It's, they're getting barked at to grow their team, or they're seeing someone else that's doing really well and they want to get to that point. So they're just reaching out to people. But there are genuine. I had a phone call 2 weeks ago with a lady that was genuinely interested in me taking a look at her business, and I didn't have to leave any of the things that I'm already doing. It's something that I could do alongside of. And for me, just stopping and listening, you could miss an opportunity if you don't, right? With that said, it's back to the calendar blocking.
Yeah.
When I'm blocking my time, I know that I want a certain amount of time for each business. Does that work perfectly like that? No, it doesn't, because it could be 6 o'clock in the evening and someone could message me back from a business and I don't have a calendar block. That doesn't mean that I'm not answering them. That just means I'm going to answer them when it's open office hours for me. But that doesn't mean that I have to do it in that block of time. That block of time is when I am scheduling posts or doing content or doing messaging going out. It's not about the messaging coming in. You work that in as you can and will. And that's different for everyone.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense. And what I hear you saying, there's a couple of things that keep kind of recurring. It's the calendaring, obviously. I'm just going to say it because it's obvious, but it's the forethought,
Mhm.
knowing ahead of time. It also gives you a lot of peace of mind because you're like, I know that I'm going to hit this thing that I need to hit tomorrow at 3 o'clock for 3 to 5 or whatever. So there's a lot of peace of mind that comes with that. And then also, I'm hearing the word coaching come up a lot, and that having some sort of a mentor or accountability, a coach,
Yeah.
something like that at play is really important, and something that I do highly value. I do love having a coach. I am going to be honest, I don't have one. I don't have that person really like checking on me weekly saying, hey, did you do this? Did you do that? No, I don't have that right now. That's a someday goal. It's something I do want. But it is important. It's something that we should have. And it doesn't have to necessarily be someone you hire at the moment. If you're thinking, I can't do that right now, or I'm not ready for that, that's okay. It can be someone in your family. It can be your spouse. It can be a sister or a friend that you can count on to be honest with you and hold you to a level that you need them to hold you to. It just you have to have a mutual trust there.
And there's lots of other avenues. Let me give you a couple of other avenues that you may not have considered. You may already be doing, and you may not be grouping it under this, but also for the listeners, um, reading growth development books,
Mm-hmm.
whether you're doing it by yourself or you're doing it in a book club. And
Yes.
I have a coaching community that anyone is welcome to join. I do some free things, but then I do coaching on the side as well. Um, and I will do book clubs. So that's one thing that you could look into. There are lots of coaches that are for network marketers, but they're also for people with small businesses. Not all of them that are really in the field of network marketing or direct sales. That's not their sole thing. Like, other people can still learn from it, and they offer free trainings. They offer trainings that are very minimal cost, and you're going to be doing it typically online. Some of them have things that are in person that you can go and join, but there are a lot of things like that. You and I have been to some things together, some events with Behind Her Brand. But the other coaches are like Tony Robbins. I'm drawing a blank right now. I don't know why, but there are so many that you can um, jump into their courses and really learn so much. And they teach you so many things that are going to set you up for success. And they're also going to give you the confidence that you need to tackle things that either are overwhelming to you that you've never done before. Maybe you're not great with technology, and they're going to give you tools and resources that are going to help you. They're going to give you words that work, how to tell people no. Some people struggle with saying no. I don't have that problem. Um, some people have a problem saying yes. They want to say yes. They want to join. They want to be a part of a community. And it dawned on me what you said earlier, if you don't mind me circling back.
No, I don't mind at all.
Knowing your why is so important. And I'm going to give you an example, okay? I want you to answer this just real basic, okay? Sam, what is it that you need from your podcasting business?
What do I need from my podcasting
Make it
business?
real surface level though.
I need people to listen.
Mhm. But what do you need personally from that business? Like if, okay, let's say if your business was, I don't know if your podcast is yet or not. I know it takes time for them to build for them to be monetized, but let's say it's at a point where it's monetized. What are you going to do with that money?
Reinvest it back into the business.
Okay. And let's say you get past that point where maybe you have people that are paying for commercials and stuff. So that's coming. So what are you going to use that money for on a personal level?
Oh, a personal level. Well, I would love to bring my husband home and he would not have to work.
And see, that's a big one because this is what people do. They say, I need money for my kids. What do you specifically need? You have to start peeling those layers back.
Yeah.
So once they know that if they had, and we're going to keep it on the lower end. If they were to bring in $500 a month, it would help them with their kids. How so?
Right.
Maybe their kids, they have a daughter and she's wanting dance lessons. Maybe they have a son that plays baseball, but he really needs a coach to help him with pitching or catching or whatever. And those things aren't in the budget. When they start really naming what it's for, they become more invested in it. Instead of, I just need $500 a month or
Yeah.
I need $200 a month. When they know what that money is going to go towards specifically, and it can change,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Because maybe they need it to pay off a bill and they get that bill paid off. Now, what do you need it for or want it for? And when you know those things, it helps. And you saying that you wanted to bring your husband home, it's really, really powerful. So, and that makes that really easy too, as far as knowing what your why is, because you know how much he makes. And maybe that's on the minimal end of what you want to bring home to get him home. And then once he's home, you can grow it from there. But isn't that powerful knowing the difference between those?
Mhm.
I find that when women know, and even men, but like I told you before, I primarily deal with women in my industry. When women know that, and they have those tough days. Maybe they had planned, and I'm going to use you as an example because you have two small children. And let's say you're working alongside of me in the health and wellness industry, and we've got this big promo going this month, and you've got big goals. And you and I just talked yesterday, and you told me this is what I'm going to do tomorrow. And I'm like, yes, Sam. That is awesome. You know, I'm right here for you. If you have any questions, reach out to me, but I love your game plan. Let's go for it. Tomorrow you wake up and your daughter's cranky. Maybe she's got an ear infection or she's got a tummy bug or whatever. And that just changes your whole day, right? Well, sometimes some mamas are like, okay, and they just roll with it, right? And other mamas, not saying that they don't care about their children or they're not loving them or nurturing them through this, but at the same time, it's right here. They're going, I told Sherry I was going to do this. So inside they get aggravated and they feel put out. And sometimes that fires them up so that when that child is better, then they're rip roaring and ready to go and they dive back in. And others, they lose their momentum. They feel like, well, I missed the boat. Tuesday, I was supposed to do this and I didn't do it. So now I'm a loser. Sherry thinks I'm a loser. I'm a loser. My husband thinks I'm a loser. The kids think, and it just piles on. And they don't listen to the word of God. They don't listen to God in their ear telling them, you're my daughter. You can do everything. You you have to lean into me, but you can do this. I love when women know their why and they have their why posted somewhere, whether it's the screensaver on their phone, they have it on their mirror, their dashboard, or their car, wherever. They have other um, positive affirmations posted in different places. Those things are what keep you on track and
Yeah.
keep you running towards your goals.
Yeah.
And again, that's the beautiful thing about being in business with for yourself because you have that flexibility. The hours are flexible, but they're not optional.
Right. Right. A lot of times when life happens like that, and it has so much
Yeah,
for everyone, but I'm just thinking about like the last, just this year alone. I just think about, okay, this is good. So how do we shift? Because it just changes how it looks. It may even change what you're able to accomplish that day, but it doesn't mean that you can't show up. There's a
exactly.
big difference because sometimes it just changes how it was originally going to play out or how you wanted it to play out. And who's to say that that's not really in God's design in the first place? Because a lot of times we think, oh, this is bad, so it's just bad, it's not from God. But you know God loves his children, all his children, and some things that are bad for us work something in us for so that it'll be good for someone else. And
Exactly.
so I'm very black and white. I try to fight that, but like I said, this was a mistake earlier, and you're like, well, it's not always a mistake, and I was like, yeah, you're right. But so when we go through hard things, sometimes we have to intentionally look for the purpose behind it,
Right.
and how is God working in it. And I don't know if that's at all on topic and what you're saying, but I think
Yes.
I think that it's just so important to know that we can still show up even if it doesn't look like how we wanted it to look. We have to let go of this perfect image of what we want this to look like because it's not going to. When I started this podcast, I was like, okay, this is going to be about moms and it's going to be about motherhood and sharing stories. And this is going to sound terrible, but I never intended it to be like this. I'm going to talk about God almost every other moment. But when I started this, it was like just immediate. It was always about how did God show up? What did God do? What did this? And it's always been that. And that was not ever part of how I thought this would look. And when I sit down to work on something and I've had a horrible day, does it always look or feel how I want it to? No, it doesn't. And sometimes you're working at 1 o'clock in the morning, but you're getting it and you're doing it. And that's just part of the process. It's going to be messy.
Yeah. Something jumped in my mind, and this is a little off track, but I think that's okay in situations. I think God just gave me something that even if it doesn't resonate with you, it may resonate with someone else. So um, my son was 2, and we had joined a church, and we'd been going there for a while, but we actually joined, and they asked me to work first in the Sunday school area with the littles. And this was before he was even up there. He was still in the nursery area that I started working up there. But when he was about 2, he came up, and I remember the first time that we had one of the teachers was going to be out, and they asked me if I would teach the lesson to the main group before they went into their Sunday school rooms. And I was terrified. I did not grow up in church regularly. It's just how my childhood was. I had a cousin who was older who loved me and would come and pick me up. She had 2 littles, and she took time to drive across town and come pick me up, and she would take me. But I did not feel qualified. So I'm sorry, I had that off. I did not feel qualified to um, to do it, but I was encouraged to do it. So I did. And I took that lesson back home and I worked on it every night. I was prepared. When I left for the church that Sunday morning, I felt like I'm going to knock it out of the park. God is going to be so pleased that I took the time to really delve into this lesson, right? And so we got there, and we would all gather in this one large area and would sing a couple of songs, and then it was time for the teacher to come out and teach. And it was like 3 minutes before I was going to go out there, and all of a sudden my mind just went blank. Like I couldn't remember anything. I didn't even remember the Bible verse that the lesson was on. And I mean, I was just a puddle of tears. And I was sitting there crying, and one of the other teachers walked in and asked me what was wrong. And I told her, and she said, "It's okay. We're going to be there to support you." And she prayed with me, and she reminded me of the Bible verse. And I still didn't remember much of anything about what I had planned. And I went out there and did the lesson. And I remember looking around the room at all of these women who had grown up in church, in this church. They all knew each other, and they had tears in their eyes. I didn't say what I had planned to say. I didn't I didn't say what I had studied, but the message came through and it's very strong, and it was what God intended. And what you just talked about, being a mom and having a podcast and it being called One Called Mama, you're nothing without Christ. And everything that you do has him involved. So why would this not have it involved? And
Right.
I hope that just came full circle because
It
it did
did.
in my head.
No, it did. And what is so neat about what you just said is a theme that, like I said before earlier, when I said that God has been showing me how um, to lean into Him and not the work, because I do that, right? I try to take on the responsibility that is His, because God has His responsibility and I have mine. Mine is saying yes and being obedient, and His is making sure it all comes together. And
Exactly.
and when I started teaching, I wrote a curriculum and I've been teaching it. We're on week 3 this week. And I had this plan of I was going to practice the speech and the curriculum. I was going to record myself because, that's a good idea. And
Sure.
I was going to look it over and have all the slides ready. And then I was also going to get the slides ready for the next couple of weeks so that I'd have it all done, right? And I wouldn't have to be worried about it. And then I got sick. And then my littles got sick. And then there was so much that just kept happening. And I felt like God was saying, you don't need to do any of that. I don't want you to do any of that. I want you to rely on me in this. Because if I showed up and not like your story where it just completely left your brain, right? It left you. But if I showed up and I had studied and I had done all this prep work and I had done this, and it went really well, right? And it just went great, then
Sure.
I could take that credit. And I
Right.
could say it was because I did all this work. Praise
I
God.
think
He
was,
gave,
yeah, I think mine
yeah,
was kind of the same thing. I think that my brain was emptied because it wasn't allowing him, even though I thought while I was driving to church, this is going to honor God. He's going to be so pleased. It wasn't really because even though I studied and all of that, it still just wasn't pulling him
right,
into it the way it needed to be.
right. And I had him remind me, he's like, Sam, I'm the one that wrote the class in the first place. I'm the one that did this in the first place. Why in the world would you think that you need to do all this rehearsing and practicing? Just stay in me, abide in me, and it
Yeah.
will be fine. And that's what's been happening. And it's the complete opposite of the norm. And again, I'm not saying don't be prepared, don't do what you're supposed to do. That is not what I'm saying. Please hear me. What I'm saying is, in this season of life, I find myself in, and what I hope you can take away is that when you are walking with the Lord and you are being obedient, sometimes he just needs you to show up, and you just need to trust him for the rest. You've done the work. Trust the work that he has done through you. So I love that you shared that, because it's so in alignment with what I've shared on the show and what I've been just recently going through. It's pretty incredible, actually.
Well, I can't wait to hear more about that because I remember us talking about what you're um, what you're doing. So I'd love to talk to you kind of sidebar on
Yes,
that whenever
absolutely. I'd love to share it with you. I forgot. I forgot I was supposed to tell you about all that. That's my bad.
that's okay.
So when we talk about, I think the last point I really want to I hit with you is when we think about all of these things in light of the holidays and we're supposed to be present, and you said, I forget, say the quote that Blenda said. Say it one more time so I can remember it.
Be where your feet are planted.
Be where your feet are planted. Being
That's
present.
so simple.
It is so simple. I love it. Be
Yeah.
where your feet are planted. A lot of times we find it hard to mentally disengage from the tasks. You know, we can set the phone down, we can set the planner down, we can step away from the desk. But a lot of times it's really hard to mentally disengage from all of the things. What would you recommend? Like, is there, what have you found that's worked for you?
I'll tell you something that works for me, and it's called real life. Okay. And I'm going to give you a perfect example, or at least it's a perfect example in my mind. But if you and I planned a day to go somewhere and do something, the excitement for me is going to build. Like I'm looking forward to something just like a little kid is looking forward to Christmas or their birthday or whatever. I'm looking forward to it. And if we got there and you spent your entire time doing this, I'm going to feel undervalued. And I think when we stop and think of it that way, how we feel on the receiving end of that, then it makes us change, right? And another thing to think about, and I don't know how old you are, but I'm 59
I'm 36.
and you're 36. And when I was little, we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have internet. We didn't have any of that stuff. We had landlines. And I I do value so many things about a cell phone and technology. For instance, my son is 29 and I love to know when he gets places or whatever. And we didn't have all of that back then. My mom insisted I carry money with me everywhere I went in case something happened. I could get to a payphone to call her, or whatever. It's okay for people to have to wait on an answer for you. There, not everything is life and death, right? Just like with cell phones, how many times are you on an important phone call with someone and they go, "Oh, so and so's calling me. I'll get back with you." Like that, I find that annoying unless they really have a true family emergency that's pre-existing and they know like they're expecting this, but most things can wait. Like I try to never do that to people because I want them to feel valued when they're on the phone with me. So I hope that helps, like just really giving yourself permission to be where you are. You're going to have time to get the other things done. There's very few things in either one of our industries that are that much of an emergency. Um, People can wait. I find too that the people that are most frustrated with you, if you don't get back with them right away, do not give you that same in return. So
That's
just breathe, and it'll be okay if they have to wait a couple hours until, you're through cooking dinner and you finish dinner with your family. Um, yeah, just be where your feet are planted. It's not hard.
I love
It's
that. I think that's a good place to end that, because be where your feet are planted. It just all comes back to that. And it's something again that has been a theme. And actually it's a topic that I touched in the class that I mentioned, is being present and having fun, like just being present.
yeah,
Because I find that it's really hard for me. And I've found it very difficult to be present. My mind is always going on something else. And the truth is that our families are not the distractions.
no,
They are not the distractions. They are the priority. Everything
right.
else, if we are with them, then everything else is the distraction. They especially as if you're a mom out there with little kids, but honestly, just if you have a kid, it doesn't really matter how old they get, is what I hear.
Yeah,
That it never ends. The discipleship of your children never ends. They are always the priority. And remembering that, keeping that in focus is very important.
absolutely. And if you really think back to why you start something, Like, I'm betting that you started your podcast so that you can have flexibility and work in and around your children, right?
I started my podcast because God told me to.
Okay.
It's very
Okay.
simple, actually. I think that's why it's been so easy for me to step into this. It's not easy, but
I hear you.
because he has just from the start said this is what you're going to do, and
I
so
love that.
yeah, that is. But I do have a lot of on the other side of that. I do have the why, like you said, to help women, but also because I would love to see a byproduct of that, bringing my husband home so that
I
he
love
could be with the
that.
kids, so that I could be with the kids, and freedom there. So we'll see.
Time and financial freedom.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Is there any last thing that you would want to say? Like if you were sitting down with a cup of coffee with the women out there and you could sit down with each of them, what would you want to say to them? Is there one thing that you just really would love to look them in the eye and say to them right now?
Yeah. Um, don't be afraid to invest in yourself. So many women are so busy trying to make other people happy that they don't take the moments to find joy for themselves. And yes, I'm working, but I find so much joy in it. I find joy in helping that mama who, for the last 6 months, they took out a loan because they couldn't make their ends meet and they weren't living outside of their means, really. Like they weren't living extravagantly. But, an extra 100, 200, $300 a month make all the difference in the world. And hearing her squeal when she got that check, helping that person who struggled with their health, whether it's because they're a sugar addict or they have so much inflammation in their body that they can't do the things that they need and want to do. Helping them with that gives me joy. So when you stay focused on the joy, you find the balance. And I don't want y'all to think I'm perfect at it. I'm not. But finding that balance and being where your feet are planted, all of those things coming together, it's incredible. And so many women deny themselves something. They see it, they want it, but they don't think that they're capable of doing it. Well, you know what? 6 months from now, whether you try it or you don't, you're still going to be you, but are you going to be happy? Are you going to be filled with joy? And if you do it and it doesn't work out, did you die? So you have to experience things to find what is really going to be right for you. So give it a whirl. Quit
Mm-hmm.
denying yourself. And it may be that it's a door opener that literally changes your life that you didn't even see coming.
Because a lot of times it isn't always about the thing we're stepping into. Sometimes it's not. It is about who you're meeting in that space. And maybe it's just that space is just there to get you to where you really ultimately need to be. And that is extremely true for me. And it's not a failure if that's
No,
no longer part of your story. It's just okay, that was for that time, and that's over, and now I'm here, and this is beautiful, and this is again where my feet are planted. This is where I need to be right now, and I'm gonna be obedient in this. So it's just part of the process.
yep, absolutely. I love that.
Love it. Sherry, thank you so much. I've really loved our conversation. You are just so impressive. I love you.
I
Um,
love you too.
Thank you. I will be sure to share all of your social media links. Everyone listening, I will have all of Sherry's links in the description of this episode. Go follow her, go check her out, message her if you would like to talk to her. I'm sure she'll be more than happy to hear from you. If you have any prayer requests, any suggestions for future episodes, please feel free to reach out to me at onecalledmama@gmail.com. You can also find me on YouTube at that same handle. Thank you all so much for being here today, and I will be seeing you again very soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.